Hey guys, this is Kevin Taines. I'm sitting here with Geoff Rickley, singer of Thursday. Jeff, thanks for taking the time to talk with us, man.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Hot off the release from their fifth full-length album titled Common Existence, Rickley and Thursday bandmates are currently headlining the Taste of Chaos tour. In a decision that surprised most fans, the band recorded the album with Dave Fridman, who also produced Thursday's most controversial record, A City by the Light Divided.
The thing that's funny about working with Dave Fridman is, like, I feel like it's not a natural fit. You know, we had Sal, and that was such a natural thing, us and Sal working together. And I've always loved working with Sal. And we even went back and did some of the stuff on Kill the House Lights with Sal. And so I love Sal, and I love the way our records sound with Sal, but I like how Dave really pushes things. He really makes us challenge ourselves and do some different stuff. And I think he loves us because we're not one of his like crazy indie rock bands. We're not MGMT or Flaming Lips or Sleater-Kinney, you know. And we love him because he's like not a hardcore producer, you know what I mean? He's like doing something totally different. So together we kind of feel like there's not really any other hardcore band out there that's doing like weird, adventurous, like psychedelic indie rock productions, you know. At this point in our career, it's like 12, you know, almost 12 years in, 11 years in. At this point, I just want to have fun and make something that I think is like super awesome. You know what I mean? Like I'm not really concerned with selling another million records or playing the Screaming Kids every night. You know, that's just not what I just don't really care about that at all. And so you gotta follow what you care about. You know what I mean? Like you can't let people tell you what your career is supposed to be. And I feel like that's what we would have been doing if we didn't go back and try and do something really strange with Dave, you know. It's an interesting thing that people say is like, oh no, this wasn't for the fans, this was for the band or whatever. And I feel like you're not making a record for your fans if you try and make it for them. You know what I mean? Because if you're not like serving yourself and what you think is interesting, then how could it be interesting to anyone else? You know, that's just one of those things that I think the industry tries to do, is like to make it that if you're making art that you love, that you're being selfish or something. Like, that's just a crazy idea. You know what I mean? I would never want to hear art made for me. Like, oh, you didn't like it, but it's for me because I'm an idiot. You know, I don't get it. Oh, thanks. You know what I mean? Like, how condescending can you be to your audience? I kind of feel like you can't decide who's going to like what you put out. You can only just try and make it exciting for you. You can try and find passion and discovery and all these great things that music is about. And it might sound pretentious or, you know, like some kind of, oh, I'm an artist, I have to follow. You know, it's just true, you know. What are you going to get out of it if you can't get yourself, like, psyched, you know?
It's no secret that Geoff Rickley's a very well-read person. Often what he's reading at the time is reflected in the music.
I think it's really interesting to like put everything that you're thinking and reading and absorbing, the things that affect you the most. I feel like you become a prism, you know, and you refract a lot of those ideas into different pieces of yourself. And in that way, like, there's this whole little evolution of human thought, right? And people are bouncing ideas off of each other and responding. And so for me, I've always loved like taking a lot of my favorite ideas from books and just the things that hit me the hardest and putting them in songs and expanding them in different directions and stuff like that. In Common Existence, there were a lot of different authors whose vague ideas and sometimes just little quotes or little lines have made their way into songs. Time's Arrow, the song in Common Existence, is based on the book Time's Arrow by Martin Amis. It's, you know, totally different plot. It takes the idea of telling a story in reverse, and I made it about my own life, and then we were able to turn the music around, turn the tape backwards, and play against that to take, you know, a whole nother dimension to it, which I thought was just a very interesting way of looking at it.
One of Rickley's most influential writers is the late David Foster Wallace.
He killed himself, and that was a really sad thing for me because he wrote this essay called The Depressed Person. Well, you know, basically said that depression is ridiculous kind of thing. And it's clear now that that was like a defense. You know, he was convincing himself that depression doesn't matter, you know, isn't important. there's this great essay he wrote on television in the age of irony, and I feel like that's so the age that we're living in. You know, nothing's sincere, everything's a mirror of a mirror, nothing's taken at face value, everything has a little wink and a nudge, like you get it, you're in on the joke, you know, everything's a joke. And he says about the tyranny of irony, you know, about how enslaving it can be because you can't ever say what you really mean. You know, it's not cool to say what you really mean. And I always took a lot of strength from that article. It said, like, well, whatever, you know, even though it's an unpopular paradigm, wear your heart on your sleeve and mean what you say, you know, believe in what you say, and there will be a time for that. Maybe that time hasn't come yet, but there will be a time for that.
Common Existence is an album full of classic Thursday motifs and motives, as well as some new ones. One of Rickley's favorite moments on the new album is the resolution of Beyond the Visible Spectrum.
That end of Beyond the Visible Spectrum, we've been playing that live, and it's been such a joy to sing because it's so different, and it's for me it's probably the most acrobatic singing that I've ever done, and so I think most of the tour I've been singing it pretty well, and it's a really good feeling to actually be out on stage and just stop, like I'm not running around, not screaming, I'm just singing, and it's like a beautiful part, and it's just a beautiful little, it's just simple, you know what I mean? It's not complicated, it's just a little nice thing. I don't know, I really love this record. I think it's really interesting. I think it really does separate us from a lot of the bands that have started up since we've been a band, and I just find that exciting, you know, I really like when, like, you can say, like, oh, Thursday, you know, not, oh yeah, they sound like, you know, everybody else sound like Census Fail and Take Back Sunday, and they sound like, you know, 1,000 other bands. Like, I like just being in my own spot, you know what I mean, where like it or don't like it, but we do what we do and nobody else does, you know. I always like that.